Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stand up with me. With so many intellectual, bright spirits, open-minded, innovative in one room, I feel very humbled. Let's do some crazy stuff together. Stand up with me and close your eyes together now. Take 3 deep breaths together with me. Both feet are on the ground, chest confidently up. I invite you to join on a future time journey. For those, allow yourself. You might see many beautiful pictures along the way where you want to end up in future. Imagine you are a super successful, established scientist in future. Where do you see yourself? Publishing, creating, reviewing the paper. You are doing well, you're super successful. Until one day, Alex moved in just next to you with the same product services, the same science topics. And you hear it from all over that it's going quite well. High quality papers, results fast, to the point, intellectual, brain stimulating, yet entertaining, to the point, outcome, tuck, 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 24/7. And you're like, no, that just can't be. I got it. Until you find out Alex is no human. Alex is AI. What makes this with you, with science and trust, with you and your human impact? What makes it ultimately with you? Take another 3 deep breaths and slowly coming back. Come back with your time future journey to us at the Falling Walls. And maybe you come back with a smile on your lips because it's scientifically proven the way you are, your body and your facial expressions have an ultimate effect on your performance and your perception, not only by you, but you can positively influence your environment too. And when you feel ready, open your eyes and let it be light. And then look at your dear neighbors and the left and at the right side. And then we do one tiny thing we should do much more often, especially nowadays. Give a warm hands up shoulder to your left neighbor.
Oh, to my left neighbor.
Great job. Give a warm hands up to the right neighbor. Great job.
Right neighbor. It's you. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Energy's up. Welcome.
Oh, Jules, good do.
The applause is for you, for being so open-minded. Warm welcome to the Falling Walls Science Summit. Springer Nature focuses on research integrity, and now more than ever is the time where we ask this question. Science in the age of AI, how can we secure trust, high quality, and science research integrity? We got this roundtable with an ecosystem of scientific and experts from publishing science and from industry. We got Rachel Guberman-Hill. Rachel is joining us today as co-chair of the UK Committee of Research Integrity. She's also a leader in the interdisciplinary research, has a background in anthropology, and is professor at the University of Bristol. Warm welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you.
We got Chris Graff. He is the Research Integrity Director and leader of the Editorial Excellence team at Springer Nature, where I also published one of my 3 books this year about AI. At Springer...
Good job.
At Springer Nature, he is leading the highest standards for research integrity in all of Springer Nature's publications. Warm welcome, Chris. We have with us Julia Pries-Buchheit. Professor Julia is an expert in open science research integrity. She leads the Zentrum für konstruktive Erziehungswissenschaft and conducts research at University Kiel. She manages EU-funded projects in open science research integrity and is recognized with multiple prizes and awards. Julia, warm welcome. We got our industry CTO and Chief AI Officer from SAP, Philipp Herzig. Philipp is CTO. He leads SAP's technology research, innovation, tech ecosystems, startup, including business, AI, and sustainability. Warm welcome, Philipp. Breaking the ice, what does research integrity mean to you? Starting with Julia, especially nowadays, rising, what means it to you? What makes it with the science and trust for you? And how is AI reshaping it?
Okay, so I'm a professor for education. I think this is important to know. So my team and I, we do a lot of capacity building and training. So research integrity is a main component we have in our trainings. It's about responsible conduct of research. So we could say, why are you targeting this? Because research is good research, is responsible research. Yes, I'm with that. But we do have some research and some facts which show there are questionable research practices which are used, and there's also misconduct. So research integrity is, for me, an ideal way how to do research. And we have to open doors for early career researchers, just showing them how to do it. And there is a very big dimension between good research, questionable research, and then, at the other end, misconduct.
Super interesting.
Okay, AI, we tackled later.
From an opening education university perspective to a publisher director perspective.
Yeah,
Chris.
a publisher. Thank you. I loved your answer, Julia. I am a publisher, but I'm also a dad. And my daughter started university this semester, and she's got a mission, a purpose to learn. She's got a responsible approach to doing her studies. And in fact, her university is really hammering her with how not to use AI. And at the end of the day, she knows she's accountable for the things that she's learning. I think about her like an awful lot, so proud. And I think that those concepts of a purpose, being responsible, and also being accountable about how we in publishing deploy AI, just the same as she's experiencing as well. So that's the start of my answer. We'll get into more detail in a minute, I think. Thank you.
I especially like the personal note, bridging to your daughter and a life chapter. Rachel.
So I think we live in really interesting times, fascinating times. I'm a user of Microsoft Copilot in my daily research job. Love it, really helps me, very positive about it. And the great thing in my mind about AI developing and being released into the public now is that we have some really solid integrity frameworks that we can work from and work with. So the fact that AI is kind of entering the scientific ecosystem so widely now is actually very good timing. So if I think about the frameworks that we consider in our Committee on Research Integrity in the UK, we have a framework in the UK, it's called the Concordat, and that's a principle-based approach. And that's quite similar in approach to the European framework on research integrity. And again, that is also similar to the Singapore Statement on Research Integrity. So there's some really great international and national guidelines and frameworks for thinking about integrity. They all take some kind of a principle-based approach, and a principle-based approach enables us to be flexible in the way in which we apply the principles, but gives us a set of guiding lights that we can work from. And the fabulous thing about the frameworks is that many funders of research, scientific research, have interwoven those frameworks into their terms and conditions for funding. So people know about the frameworks, they're using them, and now there's a lot of activity trying to consider how those frameworks apply best to research and science in the age of AI. So we're in a good space, and there's opportunities that we can capitalize on by using existing well-liked, well-regarded frameworks that set out responsibilities for everybody in the research ecosystem. I'll leave it there for now.
Well-liked and responsible frameworks. Turning to Philippe from industry perspective.
Well, look, from my perspective, if I remember my times back, I haven't written a paper myself for a very long time. It's a problem if you become a manager one day. But I have many researchers right in my team. I'm sometimes a little bit jealous because I would have loved in my PhD times to have the tools available they have today. And I think it is a big mistake if it's going to be fought against. But at the same time, I really believe all the things that we have in place in the academic community for years, right? The way how we review and many of the principles on what constitutes good research and the critical thinking that's involved, right? To review, identify, and then publish original ideas with the respective rigor behind just becomes more important than ever in the age of AI. But I believe with the tools that we have today, I think we will just, in terms of the content, but also in terms of the published results, I think we will be not just in the age of AI, but I think there's a whole new age of new discoveries upon us. In a volume that we have never seen before, and I think the technology, if handled well, is actually to the benefit of everyone going forward, in particular in the research community.
A whole new age. We live in interesting times, as Rachel said. Opportunities and risks, both we address today. How can we use AI as an enabler, as a supporter, not the risk side and managing it, mitigating it with regard to fabrication, misuse, and bias? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So I think we should use it when it's for a good purpose, yeah, and when it helps us. So for me, like I often get that question, yeah. So we tour through Europe. So every country, every institution has another policy on using AI. Yeah, so it's always a bit difficult. But the question comes then from the researchers or from the students, okay, how can I use it? Yeah? Shall I use it? Shall I not use it? Everybody behind curtains uses it, that's clear. I think we do not have to talk about that. Can I write it in my paper that I used it? So my stand, but that's a very personal stand, and I think the research community is on its way to develop a feeling for that is if AI helps you as a tool, as the calculator does, as statistic programs do. Like we have a lot of other tools too, which we use. Yeah? If AI helps you, of course use it. Why shouldn't you? The question there is, a lot of people do not understand the logic behind AI. Yeah? For example, I'm from education, and people or students in a study program of education normally are not experts in AI. Yeah? So they use a tool they don't understand. So the question is, from them is, can I reproduce what I do with AI? Is it reliable? Can I do it again? But there we do have techniques, and we had them before AI, which we can then use to test if it is reliable. And as soon as this is the fact, I always tell them, use it. Okay, then there is also a question of like who is offering the AI, but we can go into this, I think, a little bit later. Yeah.
So I hear from you, Julia, don't reinvent the wheel. And forbidding, come on, we know it with the kids, right? Forbidding is no option.
Yeah. You mentioned understanding how it works. And I'm reminded of a short story that I read and then reread preparing for this conference by an author called Ted Chiang. Has anyone heard of Ted Chiang? Somebody over there. He's a science fiction author, writes about AI and computer science, often for The New Yorker, also has published short stories in Nature magazine. And this story is called Crumbs from the Table. You can look it up, and it's in some sort of future where science is not done by humans, it's done by meta-humans. And the story is about 25 years on when regular humans are just trying to really figure out what the hell these meta-humans have actually done. And they publish what they find out in Nature magazine. It's a fascinating story about understanding what on earth meta-humans, i.e. people using AI right now, what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the purpose. Why are we asking questions to learn, to further human knowledge? It goes back to responsible use of tools. We know how they actually work. And it goes back to the concept of accountability, being accountable for perhaps the new knowledge that we're putting out into the world. I mean, I'm talking quite a lot about researcher behavior here. All of that really applies to what we do as publishers, how we use AI responsibly and are accountable for how it's used in order to be part of that kind of progress, be part of advancing human knowledge.
You dropped the ball with meta-human.
Yeah.
Imagine now it's around 100, 120 the IQ from AI, knowing that the average in population is 100. I guess we have here 125, 130, since we have at the Science Summit much, much higher. At this pace, assumptions are in the room. When it hits 150, 180, when you get the outputs out of AI and you are in front of a screen, how will the average users deal with the outputs? That's an interesting one to the meta-human as well.
Yeah, big time.
Looking at the opportunities and risks from your perspective.
I think it's important to distinguish between different types of AI and to distinguish between use of Gen AI and focused AI for particular purposes. But of course, all AI is used for a purpose. So I think that's an important bit of our thinking that we need to always be quite clear about. But related to that, my own personal view is that we're living in, as I said, interesting times, but actually we're living in a laboratory now. We're all in an experiment. And I would agree completely with what's been said about students' needs and how we need to support people becoming researchers and becoming great scientists. But we also need to think about how we're talking about accountability and what that means and what that looks like in an AI-augmented, AI-enhanced world. And I don't think that's straightforward yet. We have a principles-based approach in research integrity. Accountability is always one of the principles that appears in the frameworks that I mentioned. But actually we need to think quite clearly about what that looks like when we can't always explain what's going on within the AI that we're using. And I don't think we can expect all researchers to always be able to explain all of the AI. I think that wouldn't be feasible. So there's a bit of a rethinking, and we're probably going to need to bring in a whole host of diverse disciplines to really think together about this. So I'm really positive about interdisciplinarity and the need for bringing together the philosophers, the ethicists, the people working in social sciences, humanities, and people working in STEM subjects as well. I think that's vital, and that's going to pave the way for a better future.
Research, Integra, working together, partnership, collaboration, I hear.
Well, I see definitely more opportunities than risks, if the risks are getting well managed, because I believe, and I'm not an expert in other fields like education, for example, right? Because I'm a computer scientist / AI guy, and if you just see the extreme number of publications, right, they're just being put out there, right, by people on archive, right, which is not such a well-gated process, right, if you compare this with Springer and Nature and a bunch of more classical ways of publishing science. But it's a great equalizer in the sense that now if somebody has really good results, right, even out of labs, they can publish their work, right, in one way or another. So it's a huge democratization also of Whoever has talent, right, who has the right insights, who has the right data, right, can publish something that everybody kind of benefits from. At the same time, I think it boils down to, this is what I meant with this, there's this tremendous amount of additional research that's going to be published. Now the question is, what's the relevant versus the irrelevant one that really moves the needle forward, right, in terms of knowledge creation, right, and original content. And I think at the end of the day, what I find myself, and how do you differentiate it, and I could just give you my kind of, how I guide myself is, I think it's not just sufficient for somebody who authors and publishes scientific research to just put the research paper out there, right, and then believe there is just some magic in the process that ensures the quality. But more and more, I really look at, are the results published on GitHub, right? Is the code or the algorithm that's presented, can you kind of repeat it for yourself, because you can check out the code, you run it yourself, right, and validate what that author claimed to achieve. As well as if there is some additional some model checkpoint being published on a Hugging Face and so on, right, which you can go and debug and play around. So I think the whole reproducibility and also publishing alongside additional materials, right, that prove and can be taken by others to either build upon or to validate the work becomes increasingly important. So my trust, for example, is heavily increased if you publish alongside the paper some additional assets, right, where you can clearly see and show that the results are not just made up, whether it's by a human or AI. It doesn't matter. Humans made up things well in the past. So sometimes people say AI hallucinates, and I say humans do too, quite a bit. And so that's, I think, for me, is something that's always important when it comes to identifying, is this actually good research, and are the results that are well presented in the paper actually not made up, but actually something that's real?
AI hallucinate, human do too. I like that one, Philip. This week comes out the number, up to date, online article creation. 48% human, 52% AI. So, until now, simplified, AI is trained based on human data. AI will be more and more trained on AI artificial data. That's going to make it interesting for publishing, reviewing, opportunities, and with. You dropped me the ball for the publishing dilemma. Now is the time, more than ever, pressured, whether from pandemic challenges or the world human knowledge, and we need science to create the world knowledge, to find a solution on the world's human challenges more than ever. So we have a pressure to publish fast, and how can we deal with it at the same time to deal with trust, integrity, the classical publishing and AI dilemma?
May I start with that one? Is it quality or speed, or could it be quality and speed? Maybe AI gives us another great acceleration. I think it probably does, if we use it in the right sort of way. It scares me, that does, because I'm already going as fast as I possibly can. How can I go any faster? Well, maybe AI makes that easier. Some of the things that we're doing back at home at Springer Nature are to experiment with tools that we put in the hands of researchers to help them understand what they're reading, plan what they want to do next, and then begin to write what they're doing now. It's a tool launched in beta in July called the Nature Research Assistant. Right, maybe that's an accelerator that helps good researchers get just a bit better. Maybe we're approaching the point where it's not a question about whether I used AI and disclose it. More it's a question about why didn't you use AI? Because you can do your job a little bit better. But by the same token, we know that there are problems in the submissions that we get that we like to not publish, like We could talk about paper mills at some point, but like the output of paper mills that is not real science, it's fake science. And we can use AI to detect the fingerprints of those paper mills and avoid publishing that content by looking for example, manipulated images, or by looking for manipulated or hallucinated references, or other telltales that the paper either is a paper mill paper, or maybe the researchers have used AI poorly and naively and innocently, and they need some help to fix it. So I think there are real advantages both to the people working in the research process and to the people working in the publishing process that AI, largely large language models, but not only, computer vision as well as just pretty advanced traditional technology really can deliver.
Interestingly, not only why do you use AI for your research, but the other question, why did you not use it? You could have been so much better. You dropped the ball.
Yeah, I do think in this discussion between research integrity and AI, we also have the discussion in which direction does public research and private research wants to go. I think there's a big difference actually between private research and public research. Not how we do it, it's more like the purpose and how we are, in which framework are we working. So I just make one example. 2 years ago when I gave trainings on responsible conduct of research in my team, all participants asked me on how they can protect their articles, their methods, not to be used by AI. So it was a lot about intellectual property, about licensing, like which are the right licenses. It was a huge discussion between the publishers and the research world, or the researchers. When we give trainings now, it turned. They ask us, how can they put out material, so that AI picks it up, because the world changed. It's not changing in the future, it already changed. So my question is, and that's not an educational one, but it comes out of this educational field, is, okay, what is our responsibility as a research community in a sense of giving giving data to then be training materials for AI? So is there a responsibility from our side? Is there a responsibility from the public hand? The European Open Science Cloud is a place where they try to make this federation so that there's reliable information which can then be used to train AI. But this is more or less a bit of a future thing, I would say. So these are questions I have in my mind. I was like, okay, how can we, as a research community, what is our responsibility right now? So in our trainings, as you said, I'm really an advocate for open science. I know there are a lot of problems and challenges, but from my side is as long as you can make it open, there are a lot of arguments against it, but as long as you can make it open, please make it open for other people and also for AI. So that these systems will get better. But we have difficulties. Yesterday we talked about it. Open science is not the normal behavior, not at all. We close it down, close it even more down. So I think this is something which is in process, and there's no decision right now. There's no legal decision. There is no institutional decision. We have the code of conducts, yes. But I think there's even a bigger question in place right now.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
I'd agree completely. I'd agree completely with that. There's something about pace here. There's something about speed. There's something about the release of AI into the scientific marketplace, if you like, at speed. Just a few years ago. Of course, before then, AI was being worked on, and my husband did a machine learning PhD nearly 30 years ago. So there's a long lead-in time. But one of the things that I think about personally is the relationship between how we do responsible science in line with principles of integrity, including accountability, and how we can work with an innovation being released at pace, at speed, onto the science market that maybe has a different pace to the science itself that it's effectively trying to support. So I'm a health researcher. I've done interdisciplinary health research for years. And when I design an intervention or an approach or an innovation, I take it through a really complex process to test it in advance for benefits that are predetermined, predefined, that are worked on to define them with members of the community who might benefit from the research in the first place. And then we would do a piece of research that would look at the potential benefits, identify whether the benefits happen, and then also explore whether the intervention, the innovation, caused any harm. And that's a kind of standard approach for science. And I think that that's the approach that we're using in science. And then alongside this has come AI, and we need to probably pay more scientific attention to the benefits and harms of AI. And I know that work is going on in that field, but there's lots more that I think we could be doing. But that's a personal view.
I can only agree to what was said because I think speed matters, really, because, and I can only again speak for the scientific world of AI, what's currently going on, and all my friends like at Stanford and Berkeley, and like Yuri Leskovich, right, and Stoika, and many others who do significant work in that space, they all know that whatever you come up with in the algorithmic work, at the end of the day, it will be, I mean, you maybe benefit like at the first mover advantage like 6 months, maybe 9 months, right? And then it's anyway known to everyone, right? So you need to continue that research. And because at the end of the day, this is also what we have realized and changed it. We also publish, meanwhile, as a private company, right, many things, because I'm a big believer to what you said. It needs to be open science. It needs to be contributed. Of course, you need to go a little bit this extra mile because, for example, of course, we validate and do our model work on AI, for example, on customer data. Of course, I cannot publish the customer's data.
Okay.
That's not possible. That would be suicide. But of course, we can work on a public benchmark, right, and then rewrite the paper in a way that, of course, shows it according to the standards and the benchmark that everybody basically would in the scientific community use, but of course in-house validated with customer data. And we have this year, I think we have 4 papers at Neurops alone. 2 of them in the top 5 spotlight papers just coming from private research, but as a full contribution, including data sets and model checkpoints, right, and the entire paper and ablation studies and all of that being published, right, because I think that's our contribution to the ecosystem overall. And I think if companies, and I can just urge also if there are other industry leaders here, to urge everyone doing that, as long as that, because I think there's a clear separation as to what you can publish versus what is still a differentiator, what you can hold back without sacrificing the publication of new knowledge as you figure them out.
Super. Looking at the ecosystem of the future, how does 2030 and even more future 2050 look like for our science ecosystem?
You brought in the meta-humans. Yeah. So I
think-
I know. Yeah, maybe you go first.
Well, I think this is so far away, quite frankly. I mean, we can make this kind of, I don't know. I'm never a fan of these this will kill us all and we're doomed kind of scenarios. I don't know. Maybe I'm too naive for that. But I think there's still, if you take research seriously, of course there's a lot of stuff you can make up, right? And then it's kind of, well, should not be the way in terms of the principles, right? And responsible publication, etc. But that aside, I think if people are really serious about publishing their work, I think there's always an element of human ingenuity and touch at the end of the day that makes this original, which machines and AI models really can't do today. And I'm also not of the, I don't think, also because, you know, everybody knows now, meanwhile, scaling laws and so on maybe have not turned out to be as scaling in terms of, you know, more compute, more data, more intelligence, right, kind of thing. As maybe we thought it would in a finite amount of time. So I really believe it's a little bit like, you know, I'm also, when I'm not doing computer science, I'm a musician, right? And you can generate phenomenal music if you have no clue about music. You can generate a lot of great music with AI. But there's no hit yet written with AI for at scale, because I believe a really good song, and so is research, a really good research paper has something human to it that is hard to grasp for AI. And I think we are or coding, take coding, right? As a software developer, we always say like, oh, the software developers will be all replaced and there's a meta programmer, right? But programming is really not just spitting out lines of code, what these AI models do. I consider programming more as a liberal art, right? It teaches you in a certain way how to think, and then it's more about design decisions and trade-offs, right? And understanding for what goal you want to design the software for. And I think that's a little bit the same with research too. And I think these AI models, as phenomenal as they are, I think they won't be able to do this for a very long time.
Interesting. Speaking of music, art, and coding, you maybe don't need to write the whole notes in composition. Still, you need to understand the symphony orchestra behind, the harmony, and the next big thing.
So I agree completely about keeping, I guess, the person, the human, at the centre. I think that's what science is. I think that's what science needs for a number of reasons. I think if I think 5 years ahead from now, what's that, 2030? I would like to think that people working in the science ecosystem, and actually those benefiting from the science that's done within the ecosystem, have got confidence in what AI can do, and also understand what it can't do and what it can't replace. And all of that is needed to underpin ongoing trust in science. We know that trust in science is actually still quite high. And I think we need to work really hard to protect that level of trust that exists at the moment. And so 5 years' time, everyone in the ecosystem knowing how to use it, thinking that not using it might be an unusual thing to do. Students, everyone working in the kind of research space have received adequate, appropriate, consistent guidance, because it's not consistent just yet. It will get there. And that means that then people are able to act in a scientific manner in line with the values that they want to work. We know from surveys that people enter the scientific career pathway wanting to do research and science with good integrity. That's what we know. We know that from a range of surveys. So we just now need to move forward to make sure that that's upheld from now onwards. And then if I look further into the future, I'm not very good at future casting, actually. I find it a bit difficult, but I like to be optimistic. And I like to think that AI is going to enable us as people to thrive, that we're going to be able to use it to reduce inequity. And I also hope that we're going to enable ourselves as humans to actually just embrace our creative selves a bit more. And kind of harness and thrive in a creative manner by harnessing AI and then using it really well. Trust, though, trust in science and trust in AI, it's a sentiment. You know, it's based on expectations and having your expectations met. So the stepping stones to get from here, where we are with AI and people's feelings about it, are actually quite substantial. There's a number of steps that we have to go through. But I'm optimistic and I'm confident that we know what those steps might be, and there's lots of pieces that we have to put together to do so.
Yeah. Lots of sentiments and a very optimistic baseline. Phillips, yours was, Chris, yours was super futuristic with a meta. You brought it in. Let's spin it a little bit. We have one day, 2050. Imagine we have the robots everywhere, the hybrid humans, and a little minority, the original humans. Who's doing that work and on which quality level in publishing?
Yeah, man, just like hit me with an easy question. Yeah, I also don't like to try and predict the future. He said predictions are particularly hard, especially about the future. Like that person, whoever it was smart and was right. I'm reading this book, another book by Jimmy Wales, who is the founder of Wikipedia. Is Wikipedia going to still be around in a few years? What about Grokkipedia? Oh my God. His book's called The 7 Rules of Trust. And I think it's quite a good book. All of the rules about trust are about people. I've written them down. One is about making it personal, a personal exchange. Another is about create positive collaborations with people. Another is about purpose, doing something for a valid purpose. The fourth is assume that people are acting in good faith, not the opposite. Fifth, keep it civil. Sixth, be independent. And seventh, be clear and transparent. They're all about people. And if in this 50-year future everything is actually robots and systems and automation and AI and, I don't know, all of that, when it comes down to what really matters for trust, all of those things, if you buy what Jimmy Wales says, are about people and the humans involved. So I'm optimistic too. We're not going anywhere. In fact, actually, are we in charge of AI, or are the really large technology companies in charge of AI? I'm not sure. I'm a bit worried about that. But if we put people at the heart of it all, then I think we're in a good place.
Wonderful. AI and trust. What's the relation now and in future, and how can we make sure science stays trustworthy, qualitatively high, and integer, especially moving on? AI, science, and trust.
So for that question, I just want to ask all of you just to look back. So I think research and science is a wonderful thing. We are all in research and science because it's the place where something new develops. And we can help society through many different ways. That's why we are all in research and science. However, this system was and has some flaws before AI. Yeah? We know that. We all know that. So what I really like about actually the time of AI is all these flaws, they pop up again. Paper mills. Yeah? AI makes an exponential curve in paper mills. So now is your time, Chris. Yeah, fight them.
Yep.
Yeah. Training. Yeah. Responsible conduct of research. We couldn't agree in Europe on what does that mean. Yeah? AI now brings the topic again, and we have to sit down together and agree what is responsible conduct of research and how can we proceed in the future. And I could go on and on. Yeah, so like intellectual property rights. Yeah, what a discussion the last 50 or 40 years. Yeah, again, AI brings in. Is it mine? Is it yours? You use it. Now it's yours. You are the publisher. You are always the bad guy, yeah, in a sense. So, but now AI, yeah. Let's see how we can do.
Yeah, we can blame him and AI.
Yeah, I do not want to be the advocate to blame them, but
No.
yeah, just to make it very clear. Yeah, so AI brings in that we start discussing all these topics again. Yeah, because it brings a different light. However, we know these topics. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of potential in it. Yeah? The research community has to come together, and not only researchers. I think it's really like we need all the stakeholders at the table, which we are right now, even more. Yeah, I think some are missing. So I do like actually the collaborations which are springing out right now. Yeah, so there's one which has the meta again in it. There's the Meta Science Alliance, which brings in collaborators from the research ecosystem, and they actually try to find ways in little steps, yeah, to make research better, to make the system better. So, and I think, so if I look into the future, I just hope that we are good enough, yeah, to proceed. Because if we're not there anymore, somebody else will take over, whoever that is, maybe the meta-human, yeah, but I don't believe that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Before we are bridging to the closing question, looking at the audience, get warmed up and prepared for your bright questions, because we are opening very soon. Taking a last round, dear experts, on our round table today, starting with Philippe, what is your one takeaway for today for the audience, and how would you fight for break down the walls to protect quality, trustworthy, great science, not only for now, but also for the future?
I think you said it in my mind perfectly right already at the beginning. I think the main key takeaway is, particularly if you're in a field that is not AI in of itself, I think learning how to use AI the right way is absolutely key. going forward, because I think there's a very different way of using AI the right way versus just naively using it and then unintentionally not being able, right, to use it. And so I think it's a key skill for researchers going forward. And in particular, it is for the new researchers also, right, to learn. They're going to use the AI skills, but they still need to learn, I think, even more the critical thinking skills that are required for very good scientific research. And then I think the second really is, I think we should all think more about how we can really put out reproducible results, additional materials alongside just the pure paperwork that we're creating that makes it easy to validate the things for others too, to create that trust, because it will be very hard just by measures of looking at text, and it's very clear neither humans nor AI are capable to detect whether something has been written by a human or AI. It's very, very challenging. And I think that is what is required going forward to instill more trust.
And still more trust. Rachel.
Can I break down a very small wall? Is that okay? Yeah. So I'm a big fan of working across disciplines. I think that the whole really is greater than the sum of the parts. And so if we want to move this field forward, we need to probably actively and intentionally bring together people from different fields to have the necessary conversations, to make decisions about what accountability looks like, to make decisions about what guidance should be put out, and to make decisions about consistency, and to make decisions about how we can really reduce bias and potential harms.
Bias and potential harm, a great one, super.
Yeah, it's hard to find something new to say now that such good thoughts have been shared, but I'd add to bringing people from different disciplines together, to bringing people from different parts of the sector together. One of the things that I appreciate more now than ever before is the conversations and the work that I do as a publisher with other members of the research ecosystem. So the walls that I break down are those between the different stakeholder groups, so that there's a bit less finger pointing and say, it's on you, and more of a, what are we trying to do here? Let's do it together.
Let's do it together.
Yeah, that's difficult now. 3 very good answers. Okay, so I go with the falling walls. I really like the title, Falling Walls. So I am from Germany, and I am born 1980. So I am one of these children where my whole life everything opened up. Everything opened up. Yeah. So I could go travel wherever, more or less wherever I wanted. Like, my horizon was not wide enough to find a country I couldn't go when I was young. Research was a global endeavor, as long as I can think. And then suddenly it changed. And it didn't change 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It changed already 7 to 8 years ago. Yeah? So I had to sign papers that I'm not collaborating with Russia. Yeah? I had to sign other things, where I thought, okay, this is weird, because I was so young and naive in that sense. I didn't understand. So yes, I think this is and we all know the geopolitical shift right now. Yeah, we can feel it. It's a big discussion. We had it here this morning, knowledge security. So what I wish, what we all do, so that trust can be even enhanced maybe, start the dialogue again, even if it is difficult. Yeah? We have to talk about where to store our data. Yeah? What do we do in the future? Right now, everything is more or less a mess. Yeah? It's like everybody's shaking, and we just try to secure. So I'm very much that we open the doors, not blindly, but for agreements. We need new agreements in research. And I'm happy to help you with training, because training is always the naive thing that bubbles around, but people open door to training, and then something else can happen afterwards, so that we can implement it again as a global endeavor, which I think research is.
Super key takeaway. Dear audience, before you are getting warmed up here with your interactive questions, thank you so much to this very specific round of experts from tech, full of opportunities, to breaking down the small walls, as Rachel said beautifully, from a professor, committee UK perspective, to publishing with one day human meta-humans on Chris Sides, Springer Nature, yay, and to having Julia opening doors and breaking down walls on all levels. Me, I'm Katrin J. Yuan from the Swiss Future Institute and from the University of Applied Sciences, Zurich. Follow me if you like, next to 60,000 other followers. Opening up to you, dear audience. Yes.
Ulrike Feld, University of Vienna. I would have loved to, you speak responsibility and next generation, you want to think about the 2050s, etc. What about the environmental impact and the deep injustices that digitalization does? Because the materials come from parts of the world where whole environments are destroyed. We need a lot of energy, and we had a whole session that we don't know where to get it from. I don't understand that we can have this kind of internal discussion that we care for our science and whether we produce the next paper in the right way, not thinking that this produces a huge environmental impact. And I'm a bit disappointed that responsibility is so narrowly framed that it's only about us and whether we feel fine and whether we can trust our neighbor. I would love to have your views. That would be my wall, which I would like that you scratch at least a little bit. Maybe not break it down, that will not happen today, but I would love to see it a bit scratched.
I'm happy to respond. Thank you. It's a really important point, and I would agree.
Okay. I'm sorry that question wasn't answered, but thank you for braving this panel. I find that while presented as neutral, AI is the product of a particular hegemonic epistemology. So as its use expands, there's a threat that we reproduce and therefore naturalize this epistemology, erasing subaltern ways of learning and being. So how can we tackle this homogenizing of power tools to respond to this present paradigm? Thank you very much.
Would you like to answer in a combined way these questions? Paradigm and the critical scratch it.
So I take the sustainability question first, because I fully agree it's a big problem, but there's a tremendous amount of research that's going on to make it also more sustainable at the same time. There's almost like a counter force. Because what we see is that the amount of energy that's required to produce a certain level of intelligence via these AI models has been decreasing by an order of magnitude every year over the last 3 years, and we're still continuously seeing that to happen I predict to happen at least in the next 1 or 2, with better hardware, better efficiencies. Well, you're saying it's not true, but it's a
Expand at the same time. So you're right, the single event uses less, but the multiplication happens exponentially at the same time. So this is, the calculation
Sure.
is the wrong.
I fully agree. This is what I'm saying. So I'm not saying that this exactly offsets the entire growth in what's being done, but there's clearly a big movement, right? Because it's also, and that's in general, that's why I think there's still the incentive in my mind, and this has nothing to do with research itself. There is a natural incentive that aligns, because there will be the need, and that's the good thing. Today, the way also how the architecture works in my mind, there is a natural incentive where the financial benefit is 100% correlated with the costs, with also the energy consumption. And that gives me hope, because it will always lead to, if I can produce the same outcome at a cheaper price, somebody will. There's a huge race to the bottom that is happening, because if you come up with a better AI architecture, a better model, a smaller model, right, that produces this data, somebody will use it because it is cheaper. and you can run it on the edge or whatsoever, because that's exactly where that gives me hope, because there is at least intellectually this direct correlation that if I can build something that's more energy efficient or more sustainable, in terms of energy consumption at least, yeah, there's a direct benefit also in terms of the cost that's required to produce that, and therefore there's an economical benefit, unlike in other areas, right, where optimizing for financial benefit doesn't necessarily correlate with sustainable impact as well. And that gives me hope that this race to the bottom, at least there is a direct correlation between these two, economical benefit and sustainable impact as well.
Such a difficult.
Thank you. With that, closing the final roundtable discussion, inviting you to join us for drinks and the evening reception, or join us at the Berlin Science Week Forum. And we dearly thank you, Falling Walls Circle 2025, and all the partners, supporters here, seeing you today and tomorrow in future. Thank you so much. You are super.